Write Night is a talk show with published authors, writers, and content creators discussing both the creative and technical sides of writing, as well as the industry surrounding it, from novels to screenplays to comics and more. And now, here's your host, author Travis I. Sivart.
Welcome to Write Night. We'll get to the topic and discussion in just a moment. For those listening to the podcast, we record the podcast on our live stream at twitch.tv/Travis Tavern Talk, and we have a live interactive chat audience. You might hear the sound of the bell ding, and that means I want to interrupt somebody to read a comment or question. For those on the live stream, we won't read off everything you put in chat, but we'll try to get to the most relevant, the most amusing, or some combination of the both. Now, while we introduce ourselves, go and let us know what you're reading, writing, or creating tonight. And while you guys are posting that, the rest of us are going to sit here and watch Crystal let down her incredible blue hair, which, by the way, I've heard not a drop of dye in it. That's her natural color.
Maybe she's born with it.
That's right. Maybe she beat it out of a Smurf. Okay, tonight's topic is going to be Heavy Made Light. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Let me introduce myself. And considering the topic, I want to talk about the Portal series. Because in the Portal series, I always have a message in the characters' personal arcs. And those messages do carry some weight, but hopefully the way I pass this message on, it does more than just weigh you down. It lifts you up, entertains you, etc. And that's the Portal series. I've got 3 out so far. Might be more. I have also, Crystal, you might be interested in hearing that, thought about doing a separate series with just Torrance and the kid on solo adventures. And with their real-world personas in this world as a cozy mystery, where she's an 80-year-old woman and he's her orderly, and they solve adventures and mysteries.
Oh my god, that would be freaking brilliant. Please do that. Is it going to be like Vela-like episodes, or?
Debating. I've got to see again what holds interest in myself as well as others. Okay, so anyhow, I broke the show thing. Let's turn to Laura and let her introduce herself first, and when you're done, pass it over there to Crystal.
Okay, I'm Laura Parkinson. I've got my new debut novel coming out either the end of this year, maybe next year. I'm submitting it within the next few months. I don't have a background in writing. It's all graphic design, art, and I just started dabbling in writing, and I felt I'm gonna have a go at it. And 60,000 words down, and I think I've got something worth showing.
You know,
that's mine.
It might be your graphic art background that makes you edit and polish so much. Because a lot of us writers are like poor carpenters, where it's just like, I'm done, throw it aside, next. But when you're in graphic art, since it's visual and that's our primary sensory input, you've got to make it clean. And by the way,
it's got to be perfect.
At some point in time, I would love for you to read the first paragraph or two, if you're willing to, just so Crystal and everybody else can hear it.
Well, it's even changed since you last saw it.
Nice. Okay, Crystal, introduce yourself and we'll get to this topic and we'll talk more about that later.
All right, I am Crystal Wood. I am a blogger, a ghostwriter, and a YouTuber, and you can find my channel at Writing Happy Hour on YouTube. It's basically I track down my favorite authors, get them drunk, and ask them questions. And you can also find me at ravensmusepublishing.com, where I do all kinds of other stuff like giveaways and fun stuff. So, yep, that's what I got going on.
I didn't know I was supposed to be drunk. You know, that would really encourage me to drink if you had let me know that was part of the requirements.
You didn't have to. We can do it sober. It's fine.
Huh. It's and Cranky asks, what's a ghost writer? The term was ghost writer. And we did a whole episode of Write Night about that. You can check it out on the VODs, or at some point in time, It'll be up on the podcast for Right Night as well as on my YouTube, etc. So,
I think he's teasing me about my nasally stuffy nose, the way I said it.
who is? No, not at all. I don't think so. Why is the cat running away? Anyhow, just checking to see if the dog pulled up in a car or on a motorcycle or something. There we go. Hey, John with Conquest Publishing. How are you? Good to see you. Okay, so we've got Laura and we've got Crystal. Crystal, this was your idea, your concept that you came up with. So why don't you give it a brief rundown and then toss it to somebody. We'll all give our thoughts, get it back to you, and you can expand.
Well, I think it's just it's kind of my ethos, I guess. How writing and art and whatever creative outlet you have is almost like a religion, and you use it to break down topics that might be a little bit heavier, stuff about what's going on in the world, and by diluting it, or at the very least shrouding it in an entertaining format, it makes it a little bit easier to open people's minds and introduce or make them think about things that maybe are not so fun to think about.
Laura, what do you think about this?
Well, I found the topic quite interesting because it's basically how I have developed my novel. It started off very serious. It wasn't online dating. It was meeting strangers over the internet, and so the first draft was very serious because I was scared of the implications of people that would read it and how they would take it. So the next draft I made it more light-hearted and joked about it, but have the serious undertones there so people wouldn't take it too seriously. But I completely understood what you meant by what you said. Yeah,
Making a little spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down.
absolutely.
Conversations that need to be had, but we don't have to be miserable while having them.
Mm-hmm.
In Portals 1, I discuss, hidden by the story, I discuss depression and suicide. I discuss going from being completely healthy to having an injury that changes your life, which also includes some of these other things. And the third character addressing the end of their life where they feel like a failure from their whole life and they're now dying alone. And these sound like very dark topics. But I'd like to think throughout the book, as I laid out the story, that's the personal character arc. It's not the story arc of the book. So you get tidbits and hints of that and shades of that. And I feel like, for example, the one character with depression and suicide, that's not her message in the book. Her message is hope, and finding that hope in the darkest moments and overcoming these things when you really don't have a solid reason you can hold in your hand and point at to do these things. And I think it's so important to bring that in. And I also think these darker themes, these heavy topics, is what will bond your reader to your characters. It makes them relate, makes them understand what the characters are going through. It makes them go, I've done that. I've been there. Crystal, do you want to go on a little more, expand a little more? I'm sorry, Laura was going to say something. Go ahead.
I would just say you don't want to be too preachy. I'm trying to think of a way to. Yeah, you don't want to tell them, okay, you shouldn't be doing this. This is a bad thing. It gets too preachy, and you need to find a different way of doing that, and to make something more light-hearted and to joke about it. It's something different.
Yeah, and also, like, when you're struggling with depression and thoughts of suicide or self-harm or whatever the case is, you're already feeling guilty about having those feelings.
It's true.
And
Yeah.
having someone, make you feel worse about it doesn't pull you out of it. It doesn't It doesn't throw you the lifeline that you need. Sometimes it's just about knowing that you're not alone and sitting in a space with someone, which is sometimes a book or a movie or a piece of art, that is that lifeline that keeps you holding on, knowing that this is not something wrong with me. It's just something that people go through, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and things can get better.
I think being alone without ever being alone with that piece of creative art, whether it's whether it's a visual thing, a comic book, or whether it's a movie, or whether it's a book, or whatever. Because a lot of times when we're in that dark space, nothing anybody could say will help us. We've got to find our own lifelines in a way. You can have your support group, and that's very important, absolutely important. And sometimes to be clear and state what should be obvious, sometimes those lifelines include medical attention, medical help, or medicine. Sometimes it includes therapy. Sometimes it includes all kinds of different things. And that's an interesting concept, Cranky, and I may get to that. But, yeah, so having a book in our case where somebody can go, yeah, that gets it when they're alone. Yeah, I think that's really important and really helpful to. But how do you do that? How do you take a very heavy topic and surround it with something light without being, I don't know, disrespectful?
Pretentious or
Yeah.
presumptuous?
Or feeling
Um,
like you're just brushing it off like nothing.
well, I think that what you did with portals was really special. It took these people that were in dark places and sent them on a journey, and that's much like the journeys that we all go on in just different ways.
Mm.
The demons and monsters are just they're different things in real life, and um, I think it's just kind of about not giving up and being able to convey ideas like "don't give up" in a whimsical way is sometimes all that you need. I mean, at least for me, I can't speak for other people who have been depressed, but
Sure.
for me, I would look at things like that and find courage because I would connect to those characters, and their courage would give me courage. So,
So, Laura, in your book, you're mentioning it's got some heavier or darker topics. What's your character going through with that?
Denial. Really, she's in big denial. She wants to just. She was made fun of in a very horrific way, and it changed her outlook on love, relationships, all that. And she decided to just deny everything, go her own way, do what she wanted to do, but um, close herself off from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it was connecting with somebody uh, that was very similar to her that kind of made her branch out a little bit and test the waters in love, and that's how that goes. So it was. There's a few side stories, but that's her main
So,
thing. That's
I'm curious if it's not a spoiler, connecting with somebody romantically or like a best friend type situation.
No, it's romantic. It's a romantic comedy, so it's got to have that love interest. So yes, it was with the it was romantically, yes.
By the way, I love romantic comedies. I really do. That being said, I hate most of them because
Correct.
most of them are so predictable. You know where it's going, you know
Yeah.
where it's coming from. And I don't mind the same story retold, but it needs to be told in a different way. And the ones that do come out right, oh, I just cherish them. A few of my favorites going to movies. Have you seen Definitely Maybe with Ryan Reynolds?
Think so. Yes.
It's the one where he's a single father telling his young daughter the story of how, like, which one is her mother in the
It
stories.
definitely rings a bell.
Yeah.
It's fun and it's clever, and yeah. And another one, Love Actually,
Oh yeah.
is, and I don't know if that's considered a romantic comedy, but it is in my world. And
It is. Yeah.
this, the nice thing about that is, speaking of darker topics, um, there's a couple storylines in there because it's like 5 storylines if I'm not mistaken, and they cover it in there. And by the way, Cranky says The Notebook is the best. I tell you what, I did really enjoy The Notebook, the book and the movie, for different reasons. And now, Raven, can I read your comment there that you put in?
Yeah.
Okay,
I was just saying,
you could say it out loud. Go ahead.
I wasn't a fan of The Notebook personally, but I know a ton of people who love it and just swear by it and got all the feels. And you know, it's
So,
personal preference.
did you read it or watch the movie?
I watched the movie.
Okay, so why?
Why? Well, mainly because I just didn't feel like she was a very super awesome person. And
That I can
I
see.
felt like she was wishy-washy, and I was frustrated with people for putting up with her baloney, and I was frustrated with her for being a turkey.
That's a great point of view right there. Um, I think that's a great way to look at it, because most people, obviously, we're focused on the guy who's bending over backwards and doing cartwheels, and yeah, flawed, definitely flawed. And actually, I think out of the whole movie, the background story is okay, whatever. It's the modern day story that makes the movie, and really the ending. And we could totally drop spoilers right now, but I just don't have any urge to. But yeah, just the lasting love throughout the whole arc was the thing that
That was,
overweighed everything for me.
and then the ending. Just yes,
Yeah.
I won't deny that I got feels.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I like the story. I just didn't particularly like the characters, but I like the idea.
I can see why, and now that I said I read the book, and I'm wondering if I have now, because usually when I have the huge differences in my head between the book and the movie. Which, by the way, fun fact: if there is a book and a movie, and I haven't read the book before the movie was created, and I want to indulge in both, I will always watch the movie first now before I read the book. Because the book has so much more. Instead of watching the movie and being disappointed that it didn't cover it, I watch the movie first, and then the book opens up the world so much more for me. And that's the path I run down. Yeah?
Something that she was mentioning earlier, or something that you said actually, the modern love story. I think that your idea for your book, online dating, I think that's going to be enormously successful. Everybody can connect with that because we're all socially anxious people in our generation. Nobody wants to, answer a phone call. We would much rather text. We have to have this like mask of all the technology in between us when we're interacting with people, and I think that a lot of people are going to work with that.
My character, she takes it to the next. She doesn't want interaction at all. She wants to be a whole different person, or give herself a whole new personality, a whole new. She's basically catfishing, but admitting she's catfishing. She's like, yeah, this is what I do. You're not gonna. When I talk to you online, this is not me. This is somebody else who I'm making. And she makes it very obvious, very clear that it's not her.
This is my internet alter ego,
Well,
and it's much more attractive than my
quick
real
question.
personality.
Is
Yes.
she only disguising her personality, or is she also doing the fake pictures too?
Oh, that's the thing. I've wrote her as a plus size person.
Uh-huh.
She's not unattractive at all. She's just plus size.
Okay.
And she has always been put in a corner because she's surrounded by friends who are a bit,
By skinny chicks?
yeah. So she kind of avoids pictures, and she deliberately finds, it's actually a chat room that she goes on,
Mm-hmm.
and she finds this decrepit looking 90s old chat room that's still around, and she picks that because there's no need for passwords, no need for pictures, no webcams, so it's just words on a screen to her.
Okay.
She can hide herself completely.
Okay.
That's how it's.
So
Yeah.
I like that she's not physically hiding her appearance, or at least not falsifying her appearance. She's just not addressing it. And she's
Yeah.
falsifying her personality and putting a sign out on her lawn that says fake personality.
Yeah. In the second chapter, you see her talking to some random person, and they say, "And you have big boobs, because I like big boobs, and I want you to be blonde." She says, "Yeah, I'll be blonde, and I'll have big boobs, sure, no problem." She will be who they want to be as well. So, yeah.
And she gets a sense of validation by being whatever it is that they want.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask what she gets out of this. What is her takeaway? What is her...
Well, this is her intimacy. This is her version of intimacy. She's not like.
But it's so safe because she doesn't have.
She doesn't go.
Real.
Yeah, it's in the bedroom. So she don't have to go to clubbing. She don't have one night stands. It's her own version of a one night stand.
I'm gonna bring this away from you specifically, but not to dodge that. How many people at work do we know exactly like that? They have their work personality, but you never actually know them. Whether it's because they're trying to impress or whether they've just been in the frickin' workplace so long, they're like, I know what you people are like, and I'm not getting close to you because you will screw me one way or the other.
I mean,
I suppose you'll never know.
That's true.
I mean, I don't want to seem two-faced, but that's absolutely me. I have a different personality depending on who I'm hanging around with and if I'm at work. When I was, working with the public and stuff, I had a completely different. I had my different faces that I wore, and I think it was left over from the way I grew up, and I had certain ways I had to behave around certain people, and it was a survival mechanism that I developed. Because I didn't want to get punished for being a certain way or whatever the case was. And I don't think it's like those people are trying to be fake. It's a matter of bringing out whatever side of yourself is going to be accepted, because you're just so terrified of being judged or rejected. So you be whatever it is that people in the room want you to be at the time. So I get that. I don't feel
That's fair.
I don't feel bad towards people like that at all.
And Andrea and I have discussed it, and we're like, yeah, you definitely put on your costume, whether it's the clothes you wear or whether it's your personality. And when you go to work, because you have to. By the way, what you just did, for those on the podcast, Crystal just took her hair that was down, wrapped it, threw a bungee in it, did this little twist. That looks great. Turn around.
Cute.
How much hangs out down the back with like that? It's all up there.
Oh yeah.
Looks great. Anyhow, well done. Good job. So, yeah, we do this at work, and it's something to keep ourselves safe, but also I know these people that you watch at work, and there's one person in particular that I'm thinking of that I've worked with previously, who they would come to work and be so sweet and laughing, and if you watch carefully, if you don't, you will miss it, but if you just pay a little bit of attention, you'll see them stabbing everybody else in the back as they talk shit about people behind their back. And the people they're talking to never realize in 10 minutes they're going to be doing that to them.
That's a whole different ball of wax.
See,
but yeah.
And that's that face. We're making everybody like you by talking bad about everybody else. But I've had other personality types, and generally the military type personality, maybe military, maybe not, who are basically like, here's what I want, here's what I expect, here's what you're not doing. And people are like, what a jerk! And I'm like, wait, I know everything I need to do. It's black and white in front of me. And if I don't do it, they say, you didn't do it, go do it. And if I do it, they go, great, it's done. We're good. I would so
So
much.
you do what you need to do to get the reaction that you want. And if that means smile more and talk less, then you do whatever it is that they're expecting of you because they're the one in charge, right?
Well,
I
with
have
the
a story about my mother-in-law.
go ahead.
Obviously, when you meet your mother-in-law, you're on your best behaviour, and that kind of lasted for a good decade.
Wow.
And at one point, she called me a prude, and then I came out and I told her what kind of book I'm writing, and you could have knocked her over with a feather if I said to her, "Oh yeah, it's like got tons of sex in, it's really raunchy." She could not believe it came from me.
Was she proud, or was she
Oh yeah.
snooty and posh about it?
Oh no, no, she's good because she was always like, "Laura, loosen up, look at this," and you know, she didn't think I was as well, anyway, yeah. So she called me a prude, and then I was like, "You've no idea."
There's a lesson here, Laura. And I'm about to swear for anybody who's sensitive to that sort of thing. Be yourself and fuck them. You know, if they don't like you, they're gonna find a reason to not like you.
She called me a prude in a very loving way, though. It wasn't nasty.
Oh,
She was
okay.
just, I thought
That,
it was a bit prudish.
it's good to hear. She should
Like,
come hang out while we play poker. She'd see the other side of you. Not that you're horrible or anything,
yeah.
but you're very relaxed and you know,
Well, I
charming.
don't know. As soon as I gave birth and all that came out, I was like, Diane, I'm just gonna tell you like it is, and I do now. So she's very relaxed about it. But
So
first
wonderful.
time I told her. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that is so wonderful. I love.
If there's one thing I would love to convince my younger self of, it's this. What we're talking about right now. And I don't think anybody can convince me of it. It's something you have to learn and develop, and it's taken me nearly 5 decades to get it through my head that just be who you are. You know, don't go out of your way to be a jerk. Don't go out of your way to bow down to others, to please them for whatever reason. Be who you are. Most people are going to be like, cool, if not actually jealous and a little impressed because they still haven't hit that point. But yeah, good for you, Laura. Well done.
It's the same when I go to pick up my little boy from school. There's all these mums about just pushing prams and talking about the weather, and here's me trying to think of, okay, how's this next sex scene gonna go? Should I tie him up or not? And that's what I'm thinking. I was like, if only they knew. If
Laura.
Say again,
If
Crystal?
only they knew what was going on. Sorry.
Say it again, Crystal?
Oh, I said bring out those electric nipple clamps, Laura.
Like you do. Jimmy, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for popping in. Just so you know, we are recording a podcast right now, so if we don't reply to a lot, but I definitely want to say hi while you pop in. And John says, self-love makes the world a happier place. In really, both sides of that equation, physical or emotional.
Like that quote that I put on Discord of
Yeah, the first paragraph or two.
yeah.
That's
Pretty much it.
I feel like that quote will fit better into the next episode we'll all three be recording together, the writing with family. But you could read it on both if you want to. I don't mind because I am very pleased with it. But you said it's changed, so I'm curious to hear that too.
It has, yeah. I've moved things around a little.
Do you have it available in front of you?
I'd have to open it up on my computer.
No.
It might take a while.
I was about to say, let's save it for the next time. You can open it up when we're not recording so it doesn't shut your whole computer down by accident.
Okay, yeah.
So
this is pre-data reader, pre-critique partner, so please bear with. It's not completely polished yet, but I don't mind sharing a little bit of it.
Going back to the topic of heavy-made light, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's look at that. Now, Crystal, with your writing, and I know you mostly ghostwriting, but you're writing your own right now. Is that something you're working in? Is that something you're working on?
Um, it is. I have a couple different books that I'm working on. One that I plan on putting on Vella, and then my paranormal romance that I'm gonna just put on KU. But my paranormal romance, it's actually a dark fantasy romance that works into that later. It's about broken people finding a way to love each other, even though uh, even though they have all these jiggity jaggedy little edges, and how sometimes our broken pieces will fit together um, with other people, and it's about bringing those people into your life and surrounding yourself with people whose broken pieces match yours.
You know, there's one thing I've learned from rivers or oceans is if you have jagged edges that are rubbed together long enough, they smooth out. But you do need something else with jagged edges to do it.
Otherwise, you damage something that's smooth, right?
It's correct. It's correct.
Have somebody else that doesn't have the damage, then you're just gonna wreck them.
Yeah, or just bounce off of them and never be able to actually interlink with them.
True.
I think we've taken that as far as we can with that. Okay, go on with what you were saying here.
Oh, and then my Vela book, it's about a female gamer who lives in a house with her housemates in a small town, and they end up inexplicably stuck in the game that they normally play together.
So you're doing a lit RPG?
Yes, it is a lit RPG. And it's kind of about, her two different personalities. She has her online persona and her person who she is in real life, and how those are both real parts of herself, and being able to integrate those and bring the different borderline personality type situation together and integrating and becoming a whole person by wielding all the different sides of herself where she needs to. So
very good. It's and you know, I heard you say Vela, that you're doing Vela, and I want to talk about it briefly here without pulling us too far away from the topic. This is something that Kindle is going to be looking into and building up in this year, which is 2021, in case somebody's listening to this 5 years from now or more. And it's basically, you publish episodes. You can think of them as chapters, episodes, whatever you need to think of them as. But I'm really happy to hear. Is that what you're working on? You're working on your Vela project?
yeah, my lit RPG project is, I'm working on both of them simultaneously, actually. When I get tired of the heaviness of my dark fantasy, I switch over and I start working on my lit RPG, which is a little bit more fun and not quite so heavy.
Gotcha. Maybe we need a whole show on the idea of Kindle Vela. Talk about that. We'll put that aside and look at it later, though. One thing I like to do when I'm writing is, whether it's the stuff that I've written recently is Silver and Smith, Journal of a Stranger, and Portals, but even going back into the other ones, I love a person's dark journey. I love that internal struggle against something that, if you bring it down to the most basic level, a lot of people can understand it. And quite often it boils down to, if you to the barest essence, it almost always boils down to self-confidence. Or at least that's part of what's interlinked with their personal journey, whether it's family or trust issues or whatever. And that's one thing I try to bring into almost every character that I write, because that's something people can relate to. And I'm not sure where I'm going with this. I'm trying to go ahead.
Sorry. I think, and I don't know, maybe I'm completely off base, but if we're on the same wavelength, it feels like, we're all on like a journey of healing in some way. We all have trauma. We all have something that we're working through, and sometimes through fiction, we're able to expedite the process and go on these long journeys and have a year's worth of experiences through these books. And for me, that's how it was when I was reading Portals, or how how I felt when I read some of Neil Gaiman's work. Um, and the Doomsayer series by Steve Wetherill, like being able to work through and maybe project yourself onto these stories and achieve some level of healing through the journey that the character is on. That's what, heavy made light means to me.
It's reasonable. Laura, I see you nodding.
Yeah, yeah. One of the first things I ever wrote was, um, it was a autobiographical. It was something that happened to me. It was a dark time at school. I was bullied. It was just a time in a classroom that stuck with me forever. And I wanted to get it down, and I've kept this. It was only probably, I don't know, 2,000 words long. But it was traumatic. It was a traumatic time in my life, and I wanted to put it down on paper and then keep it until I was able to not manipulate, but just put it into a story where that character can gradually get over the problem that was happening to her, and in also it would help me get over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Therapy.
something. Yeah, so I don't think it's just therapy for a reader, but it can also be therapy for an author as well, writing it.
Yeah.
So once I put that character out there, finish the story for her, it could help me as well finally get over that and give her a happy ending and the light at the end of the tunnel.
You know what?
Dude.
Yeah, I really think
Processing and healing through fiction, man.
Yeah.
well, with a lot of my characters, the stuff I write into them, it's because I have felt some part of that. And perhaps I specify going into some other stuff that I haven't personally dealt with, but this is the gateway to that and many other things. But, for example, I've obviously never dealt with cancer personally and been on my deathbed with a dead child 40 years in the past and a husband who blah blah blah. But some of my experiences can lead to the understanding of that. And yeah, I think a lot of times in our writing we are working out our own things. This is why you see repetitive themes. Um, I've noticed with some authors, Brandon Sanderson, always religion, always fighting against the church in his books. But if you look at his personal religion, it's very much part of his life. So it makes me look at going, what's going on behind the scenes in his head? Or, oh my goodness, Michael, can't think of his last name. I'm so embarrassed I need to pull up my Audible. Um, but he writes the Ryeria Chronicles. And, by the way, lives in Virginia, just about 3 hours away from me. But I've seen repetitive things in his writing also, repetitive messages. And I think a lot of times as writers, this is what we're trying to work through for ourselves. And though we aren't writing necessarily a autobiographical thing in a moment or in specific, for example, in Silver and Smith 2, there is a bullying scene at school with Smith, with Hank, who's a 20-something female archaeologist and sharpshooter, where she is bullied and picked on, and she reacts big. And it's something that it was a pivot point in her life, at least in school, and it helped direct her later in life. Yeah, I think we work things out because I've had experiences like that, though I never actually beat the crap out of somebody in school, because when you're 90 pounds you just can't. No matter how much you think you want to or can, it's yeah, you can't. Um, by the way, John says we are fortunate to have a therapist. A therapist with us also helps with having younger creators. John, in what way do you mean that? And by the way, in case you guys don't know, Conquest Publishing is John, who's been on Write Night with me many times, as well as Talk of the Tavern. And hello, Kitty. Good to see you. We're about to wrap this up with our closing thoughts here. Excuse me, sorry, soda. So, Laura, let's start with your closing thoughts or your recap or whatever you haven't said yet, and then we'll go to Crystal and we'll wait for John to answer.
It's a bit too late for now. I'm getting a bit tired and I can't think. But I think writing in humor or light in a dark chapter or scene, or it can really help. I think that's what we were generally going over. I'm not as eloquent as I was an hour ago.
No, I feel what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah.
Go on, Crystal.
I would say that reading other people's work is a way to learn about the world. It's a window into how other people are feeling and what they're going through. And absorbing that into yourself is one kind of healing. And then writing is like learning about yourself and turning that energy inward and, you know, healing through the journeys of your characters that you're creating. And so by reading and writing through fiction, we are healing ourselves and each other. And I think that that's pretty freaking awesome.
Very good. I don't think I could say it better than the two of you did. John says it helps with details, emotions you're trying to elicit. She can usually help us with what they look for when doing therapy. When, as a reader, you're reading a book and you find a character you can connect to, even if it's not necessarily your direct experience, you appreciate that author a little more. You connect with that author, and that author will never know it. When you're a writer and you're laying these words down that meant something to you, whether you're having experienced it personally or whether you're empathetic to your character or somebody you knew that the character is mirroring, shadowing, representing, you'll never know if somebody connects to that. But it all helps on both sides. And putting a layer of comedy over it, or action and adventure, or whatever, it doesn't lessen the journey. It makes you understand that sometimes your personal journey gets overshadowed by events in life. But if you look at whatever you wrote or read, the bottom line is, it is that character arc that makes the book have meaning. The story arc is just the things that happened while this person was changing and growing. So, keep that in mind. Go ahead, Crystal. What you got?
I just wanted to say what the Green Goblin said
Do you want to
about
read it out loud?
Yeah, it says a bit late to the party, but does one think it can go the other way as well? Like you can experience trauma or real fear reading another's fiction. And I think that's absolutely true. And in a way, that kind of opens you up to empathizing with more people, being able to suffer through that trauma in a limited, kind of safe sort of environment prepares you for all the interactions that you're going to have with people who have been through stuff like that. It enables you to see things from their perspective a little bit so that you can connect with a wider variety of people that have had experiences that you've never had. So it just kind of helps with the interconnectedness of all of us.
Laura?
It's definitely a reason why there's trigger warnings on some books now. You know, some things can... I've had some beta readers that are triggered from my book, and it's a rom-com. You wouldn't believe what can set people off, so it can definitely hinder some people with what you write as well.
Kitty adds, some of the fan fiction I've seen doesn't have any healing vibes. There are people who pour their darkness out and feed it. And that's very true too. You have to realize what you're putting out there. People, they are taking it in, and yeah, we got it, Kitty. So
I think some of those books you just have to. The author's just saying, just listen to me. I want to get all this out. Just listen to me, and at the end, just go. I get it, and I don't want to be fixed. I don't want to. I just want to spew everything out, and that's what they do for a lot of them.
Scream into the void.
yeah, and they're not even worried if somebody hears them. But though I think we all want somebody to hear us. I think that's a given. Okay, say goodbye to everybody. I'll do the outro, and we'll finish up this episode.
Bye.
There you go. Okay, and before we go, I want to remind everyone that you can email us at rightnightshow@gmail.com. That's right with the W, night with an N, show@gmail.com. To let us know your thoughts on the show's topic, suggest other topics you'd like to hear us discuss, or just have a message read out on air to someone in your life. Thanks to everyone for supporting the show by downloading the podcast, sharing it on social media, grabbing some shirt stickers and mugs from bit.ly/tavern merch, or barware patches and hats from bit.ly/tavern merch too. It's bit.ly/tavern merch or tavern merch followed by the number 2. Thanks to everyone who joined us live at twitch.tv/Travis Tavern Talk, and everyone who supports the tavern by subscribing, hosting, throwing bits, raids, and most of all, commenting.
Thank you for joining author Travis I. Sivart and the other writers, content creators, and all-around amazing people for our discussion here on Right. Join us again soon, and until you do, make sure you create with passion, enjoy the journey, and remember, every night